And we're live. It is Thursday, the 14th of August. It is the year of our Lord 2025. It is 8 o'clock a.m. I am coming to you from the Hilton Garden Suites extended stay, and I'm not having an extended stay, in Virginia Beach. I guess it's extended over one night. I drove down to Virginia Beach yesterday morning. Or yesterday afternoon. I'm driving home today. I am thus cactusless. But the estimable Tamara Wittes does inform me that I am the proud owner of 50 pounds of yellow chalk. And I do expect that by this afternoon, I will also be the proud owner of 50 pounds of blue chalk. And I think you all know what that means. Yes, folks, it is happening tomorrow, assuming the blue chalk arrives on time. Sometime in the middle of the day, live on Substack, I will be out there in front of the Russian embassy with a broom, maybe with a Ukrainian translator, maybe not sure. And I'm super excited about that. I am going to sweep 100 pounds of chalk into the sidewalk. And here's the innovation that I'm really excited about. I'm going to cover it with 6 full cans of hairspray in an attempt to make it just a little bit more difficult for the Russians, aka the motherfuckers behind the gates of hell, to wash it off with mere water. I'm expecting pleasant interactions with law enforcement. I'm expecting to be very hot, because it is getting hot again in Washington. And I'm expecting to cool in a limited sense my seething incandescent rage at the Alaska summit by doing this, to blot out the noise with a little bit of individual mischief. I would do it with lasers, but as you know, my lasers are in the kind custody of the United States Park Police, which I do not expect to have any interactions with tomorrow, because tomorrow I will be on the stoop of the Russian embassy, and thus in the jurisdiction of my favorite law enforcement agency to deal with in the Washington area, which is the United States Secret Service. And as we all know, drawing on the sidewalk in chalk is not a crime. In fact, it is something that children do all the time, and we call it urban beautification. We call it socially constructive children's activity. We call it a lot of things. So I'm going to get in touch with my inner child. And, you know, if you want to join me, I will be there on Substack. And if you want to join me in person, I will, there's a lot of chalk to distribute. Lior asks, can you spread glue on it? And the answer is probably not. I think that would be an aggressive stance to take vis-a-vis the city. I don't want to put the city in a difficult position. Hairspray, does wash out. Glue doesn't really. So I think anything permanent they're going to take as like the equivalent of paint, which you can't do. And so I'm trying not to be provocative, and I don't think the hairspray is not going to have the effect of preventing any washout. It's going to inhibit it, delay it, so we'll see. Let's see. Are there other questions? No, I think that's it. Oh, why hasn't Tamara co-hosted? Well, so you would have to take that up with Tamara. Uh, we generally keep our professional activities pretty separate from one another, for the simple reason that the if we didn't, we would end up spending an enormous amount of time going to each other's events. And so we decided when we were very young that we didn't go to each other's events, and we didn't, by and large, default participate in one another's projection activity. The estimable Kate points out that rational security is an exception to this, and indeed it is. Rational Security is the one professional project we have ever done together. So, yeah, that's the exception. Um, Now, Albert asks, is Dog Shirt TV really a professional activity? And that is a really interesting question, because by any reasonable standards, the answer is no. On the other hand, if the definition of a professional activity is something that you do as part of your career slash for money, well, y'all do subscribe to it, and it has a real revenue stream. And so I don't know. The answer is I think you be the judge. I report, you decide. In any event, it counts as professional activity, something I do in my capacity as a public figure or whatever. And that counts for purposes of the common law of Tamara and my rule. It definitely counts for that purpose. Um, Folks, Nastia is going to be joining us momentarily. We're going to talk all about Alaska this morning. In the meantime, I am obliged by contract to tell you that the sun is shining. The birds are chirping here in Virginia Beach. It's going to be a great frickin' day. I'm going to have breakfast with the estimable Quinta Jurecic and Emily Hogue after I'm done with y'all. And before that, I'm going to talk to Nastia about Alaska. She and I have both written columns about Alaska. Neither of them, I think, is published yet, unless she hit publish in the last.
No.
No. And so, you know, if you're not interested in Alaska, in the Alaska Summit, this probably isn't the episode for you. So, hang around or go away, whichever you prefer. But I want to tell you a story. Start with a little story. You always start with a story to get people into it. So the other day I was having brunch with 3 young Ukrainians, one a journalist and 2 activists. And we had brunch, and then we were walking over from the brunch spot to Eastern Market, which has a lovely flea market every weekend. And we're talking about the Alaska Summit because that's all that anybody in Ukrainian American policy community does right now. You get together. How are you? Yeah. What do you think of the Alaska Summit? I realize that we are walking through Seward Square. And Seward Square, for those of you who are not familiar with the geography of my fair city, it's a square, literally a square, but it is cut in half diagonally by Pennsylvania Avenue, right between Eastern Market and the Capitol. And it is, of course, named for William Seward, who was Secretary of State under Abraham Lincoln, and probably is most famous for having said when Lincoln died, "Now he is for the ages." But the second most famous thing about William Seward is that he was the Secretary of State who bought Alaska from, yes, the Russian Empire for $7.2 million. And no, he did not pay in Bitcoin. So here we are, three Ukrainians and an American, walking through Seward Square. Remember, when we bought Alaska, it was called Seward's Folly because it was thought of as so unthinkable that anybody could use that land for anything. So we're walking through Seward's Folly, through Seward Square, talking about Trump inviting Vladimir Putin to Alaska to punk us again and carve up Ukraine. And I thought, wow, am I mad about this? But also, wow, is DC geography awesome? And now there's probably National Guard troops on Seward Square for all I know. I'll have to check it out. Anyway, uh, that's my story to get us started. Nastya, it's good to see your face as always. And tell us, first of all, for those who need a little bit of background on the Alaska Summit, bring us up to speed.
Oh, okay. There's kind of a lot that's been happening, but so yeah, Trump is set to meet Putin tomorrow. I'm really excited, except that it's gonna kick off at like 10:30 p.m. for me, so I'm probably gonna have a late night because it's kind of like boxing or something. You like stay up, or like the Oscars for Ukrainians, you stay up late into the night because it's an important event. But so essentially, Ukraine is kind of in this state of, I mean, I wouldn't say shock because we're in the state of shock since Trump came back to power. But in the past in the past week specifically, there has been this like diplomatic frenzy, like so much activity, and there has been some reporting about this. So basically, Zelensky has had like more than 30 phone calls, or rather, like phone calls with more than 30 leaders. He's gone to Berlin. He today landed in London. He's met with Merz. He's meeting with Starmer probably right now, for all I know. He had like a little meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, which is this group of like the Europeans who support Ukraine. And so all of this is like to basically get on the same page with the Europeans and present some united front, because of course neither Europe nor Ukraine are a part of the summit, which is of course a huge problem for Ukraine. And so the worry is the same as that has always been, that the US and Russia are going to agree on something and try to shove it down our throats and threaten to there's not that much actually that the US can threaten to do right now, because they're not doing that much
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
but like,
there's all those deals for weapons that we are now allowing Europeans to buy, none of
and
which
what
have
are
been
you gonna
delivered yet.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do? Say, like, give Europe back
Cancel,
its money? Like that makes no.
cancel the contracts.
But why would you do that? You're making money. Like you're making money on it. That's like the one thing that Trump cares about in this entire world is making money.
Yeah, but look, I mean, it's first of all, Trump isn't making money. U.S. businesses are making money, and as he's
Sure.
shown with the tariffs, he cares about U.S. businesses making money much less than he cares about big deals that he can announce. And I think the technical term, if you look it up in the dictionary of technical terms, is vindictive motherfucker. And
Okay. Sure.
he would like don't assume when the United States wants to make trouble for somebody, it can.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
uh,
You're right. But so basically, yeah, the worry is that they're gonna come to some deal and force it on Ukraine, and threaten that the U.S. would threaten to withdraw intelligence sharing or break these contracts, or we're gonna have to they're gonna force it on your throat. The visions for peace or whatnot, like the Russian and Ukrainian visions, are as like they're as apart as they've always been. I've written about this for Lawfare, and
Yeah, so actually, somebody should dig up Nastia's last piece
I
for
can.
Lawfare, because it outlines across a range of areas just how far apart the two sides are, um, and based on the formal memoranda that both sent in
Just
Istanbul.
put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's now on the screen. Um,
Okay. I didn't know
um,
this feature exists.
It exists, and what I don't know is whether it translates to the ultimate YouTube version of it. But again, if getting access to the links is just a perk of being a paid subscriber, y'all on YouTube and should remember that there are paid subscribers who, when we talk about a link, see them on their screen, and you're not one of those people, unless of course the feature now appears on YouTube.
So essentially, um, Ukraine is in a very dangerous moment right now. And so all of this frenzy of diplomatic activity has amounted to a joint position from Europe and Ukraine, which is that there has to be a ceasefire first. Like, there must be a ceasefire before any substantive negotiation about anything else. And so the reason for that is that Russia always sort of like vis-a-vis Ukraine, but also vis-a-vis its other conflicts and wars in history, it has always intensified its military campaign during some important diplomatic moment during peace talks to force its enemy into a worse deal. That's exactly what happened with the ceasefire negotiations back in 2014, 2015, when Russia first invaded Donbass. Ukraine accepted those Minsk agreements because it was in a terrible position, and the Europeans basically were like, sorry, we can't do anything, you have to sign this. And so Russia is doing it again. And on Monday, there were reports from an important monitoring group in Ukraine, Deep State, that there was basically a massive Russian breakthrough in Donetsk Oblast, in Donbass, in eastern Ukraine, on the Eastern Front, and that this breakthrough was very bad and pretty critical. And if it's not stopped, it could threaten the Ukrainian defense of that entire region.
And what counts as a massive breakthrough in this period of um, uh,
We can't put
very
photos.
highly positional war, etc.?
We can't put photos on the screen, right?
I can.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
I can, because I think it will be great if you just put on that map.
Okay, share the
Yeah.
map. Put the map
Okay.
in the chat, and I will
I'm
put it
doing
on
it
screen.
once and I'll never do it again. I'm sharing a Russian media outlet. It's just the first
Oh,
that pops in on Google.
Medusa
It's bad.
is
The
is
only
it
one
bad?
that I respect is The Insider. I have a story about this if you want me to get into it. You know about it.
No, no, no. I'm not. Uh,
Medusa
asking
is as bad
Ukrainian
as they all are. The
asking
Insider is not.
Ukrainians to talk about Russians is you always get the same. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
Down.
it's boring.
Go down.
Go down. Tell me when.
I'm not seeing any movement on my screen, by the way. I don't know if people are seeing.
Oh,
I'm just, yeah, nor is everyone else.
oh,
We're
okay.
all just seeing like the title and the main
Give me
photo.
a second.
Yeah. But there's a map. It's the first map you'll see. People have to see that map.
You're not seeing any change?
No.
I'm very confused by that. You should
Here
be
you
seeing a
go.
map.
Now we're seeing him. Okay, so here you go.
Okay.
So that's the breakthrough that I'm talking about.
These two fingers that you're
Yes,
seeing?
those two thingies are like the Russian advance. And so that's in Donetsk Oblast. And one sec. And essentially, yeah, so I was just checking the numbers. So they advanced around 10 kilometers roughly, which for the positional warfare, somebody's
Yeah,
saying
it's a lot.
that they're confused the breakthroughs into Russian. No, no, no. The red stuff is the Russian forces, and then the blue-gray part of the map. The map is all this is Ukrainian territory, and the red is the Russian forces. So these little red thingies are Russian forces advancing and breaking through into Ukrainian territory. And like 10 kilometers is a lot.
It's a lot.
Like we're fighting for every inch right now
So
for like
just
months.
for people who can't read Cyrillic, which I assume is the majority of you, these are all little towns.
Like villages, like not even
Yeah,
towns, little
they're
settlements.
not. They're and there is in this region. I'm just looking for what's the nearest big city. I assume.
Well, Dobropilla is how everyone talks about it. There is on the left, there is Dobropilla. That's like one of the bigger towns. So everyone says about like it's a breakthrough in
So
the
that
direction of Dobropilla.
so that's this. Can you see my cursor here?
No, but I know that you know what.
Oh,
Yes, yes, that's that. That's that.
so that's this guy,
Yes.
Dobropilia, and then
You go further around it, you will see more important towns. But maybe not on this map. How about I just send you the actual deep state updated map that you can manipulate better. Yeah. So here, for people who are curious, open this. This is the monitoring group that I'm referring to. They update their stuff all the time. Oh, moreover, you can switch it to English there, Ben.
yeah, let me do that. Hang on, I'll share it, and then
Oh, sorry, I should might mute myself.
okay, you should now have the map. And give me just a second. I'm going to switch it to English. I don't see the English switch option. I don't see
There
an
is a
op.
Ukrainian little flag on the left.
Ah, is there? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So
And then
now we should.
you can also turn off all of these like troop signs thingies. Yeah.
All right. So what you'll see here, the major cities in the area are Slovyansk and Kramatorsk.
And yes, yes. There's also Konstantinivka, but it's a little harder to see.
And
Yeah.
so you have this breakthrough that is, all of these. So Konstantinivka is three-quarters surrounded as it is, and that was before this breakthrough. So if you look at this two-fingered breakthrough here, you'll see it's mostly going through rural areas, but it really creates a problem for the encirclement of
Konstantinivka, yeah.
Konstantinivka, and then it also is heading directly in the direction or 25 degrees off the direction of Kramatorsk, which is a big, if memory serves, is a big railroad hub, right?
Yeah, so essentially all of these areas, Slaviansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, Konstantinivka, like that little highway you can see, all of these places are super important for Ukraine's entire defense of the east of Donbass. There was a lot of fighting in those areas in 2014. The Russians occupied it briefly, and then we took it back. And so, since 2014, we've been building a lot of defensive structures there. And there's also like a natural defensiveness quality to it because these are like big cities, right? So there's a lot of sort of urban area. And so all
And do
this
we?
whole area is extremely important. Like if that falls, sorry, last point, Ben. Like if that
Yep.
falls, then like all the other areas like Dnipro, Oblast, Kharkiv, like everything else is sort of, threatened.
And do we know anything about how many troops on the Russian side are involved in this breakthrough?
I haven't been following on it in that detail. Probably, yeah. They probably have reported it. I imagine it's not that much. I imagine it's like a small number of guys on like little scooters or something.
Right.
So, but anyway,
Um,
all of this was to say that it's a really bad timing for Ukraine because, like, as I read in my column, uh, Russia is doing what it always does, like pressing on, and Trump is going to do what he always does, which is he's going to jump to the wrong conclusion or get the wrong idea. And he's going to think, like, oh, Russia is bloodthirsty. Russia wants to keep the war going, and that's
Russia
why
is
he's doing
winning,
it.
is what he's gonna. And
Yeah, and
remember, the last time there was you know, you have no cards,
I
right?
was just going to say exactly that. Yes. That
This
Trump is
is
going to think that we're weak and we just have to give up.
a very revealing comment by Trump was when he said to Zelensky, "You have no cards," and this is, remember, all right, let's zoom out and do a Trump analysis for a minute here. So remember that Trump reaction to Zelensky in the Oval Office is, you have no cards. You basically have to do what I say because I'm your only card if I choose to be your card. That
Mm-hmm.
turned out to be wrong, of course. But then contrast that with the way that Trump engaged with Bibi Netanyahu a few weeks ago, when the Israelis did the Iran operation. So Trump clearly opposed that operation. He opposed it vocally on the first couple days of it. He emphasized, we have nothing to do with this, blah, blah, blah. And then he sees that Bibi is getting all kinds of incredible press in Fox News, and, that there is, and let's be candid, that was an extremely militarily effective operation. Um, and all of a sudden, he starts using the word we, to describe what in fact was a military operation by a different country that he tried to prevent from happening. And then he gets in on the action. And so, if you compare those two things, the perception in Trump's mind that your military action is ineffective is hugely important to which side he thinks he wants to be on at any given moment. And so, Ukraine pulls off this incredible drone operation, which everybody's forgotten about all of a sudden, a few weeks
I
ago. And then
haven't.
but we're
It's in the
but
Arctic, so I haven't.
here's the critical point. We're not talking about it, right? And so nobody's talking about the recent Ukrainian successes. Um, and it's not so much fun to be on Ukraine's side right now, except for me. But on the other hand, when Putin, these little perceptions that the Russians are making progress are enormously important for Trump, because they create risk for him of being on the losing side if the United States is with Ukraine. And I think these are psychologically just deeply, deeply important. And they manifest chiefly in two things. One is ass kissing of Putin, which is what you see, this dramatic shift. Remember, a week and a half ago, we were talking about reducing the 50-day, we're going to put tariffs on, secondary tariffs on people who buy, oil from Russia. and 50 days, I'm reducing it to 10 days because he keeps bombing Kiev. Well, he hasn't stopped bombing Kiev, you know?
Well,
And
like a little bit he has, sort of. Maybe for like a week.
yeah. Um, right. And then, um, he goes from that to, Steve Witkoff going to Moscow and, big men with big maps carving up smaller countries is, a thing. And, he pivots on a dime, and these little these perceptional advantages on the battlefield can be really important to his momentary perceptions of who's winning, which in turn inform his sense of whose side he wants to be on.
So it's also kind of interesting that this summit was arranged on well, first of all, at Russia's request. And it happened on the day which was supposed Trump deadline for Russia. Last Friday was this deadline where, like, if Russia didn't stop fighting or didn't agree to a ceasefire, there would be these crippling sanctions and secondary tariffs, like on India and China and other countries that buy Russian oil. And so on that day, uh, Putin and Trump have a phone call, and Putin suggests to like have this meeting, and then no sanctions come. Of course, nobody stopped fighting. And then instead of sanctions, Putin gets an invitation to come to the U.S., which is pretty crazy. He actually hasn't been to the U.S. in 10 years. The last time he was there was in 2015. He was giving a speech at the General Assembly at the UN.
Yeah, but to be fair, any foreign leader can come and give a speech at the General Assembly. The U.S. is obliged to give visas for that. So um, it's longer even than that, since he came to the United
For
States
like a summit. Yeah.
to meet with U.S. officials.
Yeah.
I don't think that's. I mean,
That's a good point.
Kim Jong Un could come to New York tomorrow to give an UNGA speech. I mean, no, I'm serious. Fidel
And
Castro once
you
gave a
guys have
speech.
to give a visa? Crazy.
Yes, it's part of the treaty that established the UN, is that the host country of the UN must allow access. Now, when we give visas for that sort of thing, they're
So like
geographically
3 hour
constrained.
visa.
Well, it's short, and it's geographically highly contained, I think, to the island of Manhattan, or maybe even to just
Wow.
part of it. But Fidel Castro once, addressed we would never voluntarily give a visa to Castro. And
Yeah.
I think Yasser Arafat addressed the UN with a gun in his belt.
Really?
I believe so. And that was, so I mean, it's a, although that may not have been in the United States, it may
I
have
have
been in
thoughts, but
Geneva.
I'm not commenting on anything Palestine related.
So, yeah, so it was I don't even count the showing up to give an UNGA address. It The last time he was in the United States to meet with a president of the United States, I think, was during the second Bush administration. Um,
The looking in the eye and seeing the soul thing?
I don't remember when the last time he came to. I mean, he's met with many presidents,
Right.
but come to the United States to meet with a president? We don't do that
Did you guys
with.
never host like what is it called? Like there's like a way you call these like White House official visits.
Yeah, the state visit.
A
I'm
state
sure
visit.
there
Have
have
you
been state visits with Putin, but not recently, not in the
right.
last not since. I don't remember. Obama had one with Medvedev, because
Yeah.
they famously went to get burgers together,
Right.
at my favorite burger place. Um, but which is now out of business, by the way, which proves don't host Russian officials. It just ends
Or if you
badly
do,
for you.
poison them.
I mean, look, they had
Just
their
saying.
chance. Anyway, the I don't think there's been a state visit of Putin to the United States since the second Bush administration. But I could be wrong about that. I could be forgetting. Remember, Putin was notionally not president for a while
Yeah,
as well, and so
that was it.
um, anyway, um, has have people in Ukraine talked about the symbolic aspects of doing this in Alaska?
Of course, I mean, Ukrainians have been joking about Alaska this whole time. Like every time there's some reporting that, JD Vance says Ukraine will have to agree to give up Crimea, or Trump says we'll have to give up Donbass. Every time Ukrainians are like, maybe you guys should just give Alaska back to Russia then. Because if you're asking us to trade some territory and you don't even give a shit about who lives there, where it is, Alaska is also, I mean, like if Crimea was once in the Russian Empire and nobody cares how it got there and what was the context, then Alaska also. Like people make these jokes all the time. So it's pretty funny that it's happening there.
Yeah, I think so. There's some other interesting symbolic elements of Alaska that I think you should spread all around Ukraine. So one of them is the one you identify. But the other is that during the 2008 campaign, when John McCain was running against Sarah Palin, who was, of course, then running against Barack Obama. His running mate was Sarah Palin, who was then the governor of Alaska. And Sarah Palin was a kind of proto-Trumpy figure. And
Interesting.
she was also famously foreign policy illiterate, I think is a fair way to describe her. And she had a number of gaffes about uh, sort of gaffes about foreign policy. There's no good reason for the governor of Alaska to be a sort of foreign policy expert, but she really was subpar in that regard. And she famously boasted that she understood the Russian threat because she could see Russia from her front yard, which of course is not true. Actually, you can't in fact see 50 miles. Nor does she live on the Berings, at that, on one of the islands that are closest to it. But she said this, and like it was a sort of well, I know the Russian threat. I can see Russia from my front yard, and so there is this history of, and this is a very famous. I'm sure everybody in the Greek chorus remembers it. It's one of the things that, yeah, Lior says, with great eyesight, and I would say, and no curvature in the earth. Um, uh, it's one of those things that that everybody really remembers. Uh, um, oh, so Kate says she actually didn't say it. That was Tina Fey impersonating her. Palin said there are next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska, from an island in Alaska. Okay, so it's interesting that we remember it as Tina Fey's Saturday Night Live impersonation of it. Um, anyway,
Do people
uh,
know that John McCain is a huge friend of Ukraine and there is a street
yes,
named after him? It's so
yeah,
interesting.
people know that, and
People still talk
Georgia,
about him
and
here.
yeah, well,
Like,
he
well,
was,
we need to go
in
back to the
many
times when
ways.
the Republican Party, had these great, hawks like John McCain. Like, that's what people in Ukraine say.
Well, that is certainly true in ways much broader than Ukraine. I mean, a Republican Party composed of John McCain would be, we would be in a better world in many, many ways. But anyway, I think there's the idea that that Trump is bringing Putin to Alaska to punk him, really does harken back to the Sarah Palin, oh, I know Russia, you know, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of symbolic elements of it, probably all of which are lost on the Trump people, but I suspect was done by Putin in like Putin could come to Washington or they could meet in California. I kind of want to know who suggested Alaska and who said,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's a good idea,"
yeah,
right? Like it does.
that's a
The
good
Russians
question.
take symbolism pretty seriously, and I would be surprised if this were not an example of like the cultural illiteracy and historical illiteracy of the Trump people missing what is in fact a locational uh like how about there like a little
Like
they've like
it's a
already
tiny
been
little
tricked.
insult, right? Like it's a little bit of a,
Exactly.
it's a little bit of that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. It's just a tiny little jab that I think they entirely missed. But like as you point out, Ukrainians don't miss it.
no, we do not.
And right? Like Ukrainians get it.
Yeah.
And you know, while we're carving up pieces of the old Russian Empire, like why not meet in Alaska? Get it? All right. So I have here next question. Do you share my sense that the likeliest outcome here is that this thing blows up Singapore, Kim Jong Un, or I guess it was in Vietnam, the second Kim Jong Un summit? That like it's easy to announce a meeting, but actually there is like what would be the deal that you could announce that even the Trump administration could accept?
So, as far as I understand, usually when these meetings happen, when any big summit happens, it usually happens because you've done a bunch of work beforehand and then you want to sort of tie it in a little pretty bow
They
or do something.
they did a lot of work, Nastya. Steve
What?
Witkoff made a trip to Moscow.
6 trips to Moscow. The guy actually has done a lot of trips to Moscow.
No,
Uh,
no, but in the last week, there he met
yes.
with Putin. He looked right into his eyes. I think he probably saw his soul, and reported back to Trump. And Trump said, "Okay, I'm ready to do a deal." Doesn't it sound like they did the prep work?
Apparently. But so what's very interesting to me is that the White House and Trump himself are very much downplaying their expectations. Like they're not talking about this in like this usual Trump pompous manner of like, Liberation Day for Ukraine or whatever the hell you want to call it. Uh, I mean the White House press secretary, who I find extremely annoying, but that's a different conversation.
That's
Um,
just because you're prejudiced against Christians.
wait, what? I
No,
was baptized. I
no, no,
I
no,
go to
no. I'm just
church.
saying, Nastya. Any criticism of her is because
Okay.
you're prejudiced against
I'm a
Christians
young white woman, so there's not that much that I can be prejudiced against.
no, you're prejudiced against her because she's a Christian and she's
Okay.
a career mother
And I'm
and she's
not?
but
Hello?
hey, stop it. No,
Anyway.
you're not allowed to criticize Caroline Leavitt.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
just don't even try.
I'm sorry.
You're a bigot.
So, she said that this summit was a listening exercise, which, is like, that's just so bizarre. And then Trump also said that, like, I'm just gonna go there to, see where his head is at. I'm putting words in his mouth, but that was kind of the vibe. He was like, I just need to see and like what he thinks about this whole thing. And I'm just like, because apparently 3 years of war, I mean, forget that, 6 visits from your envoy, an official reiteration of the peace terms, like an actual document that they sent to you, countless calls that you've had with the guy on the matter. Apparently, all of that is not enough to see what Putin thinks about this, apparently. So it's just interesting to me that they're downplaying it and they're setting the bar super low. Like, if they come out of the summit having achieved nothing, which is probably what's going to happen, that they're going to be fine with that. They're going to say, well, this is fine. We just wanted
Heard each other out.
we heard each other out. We are now closer than ever to a deal, and we'll keep working, and that's going to be it.
So, I want to say this is a little bit of a detour, but, you know, summit meetings with grotesque, fiendish, murderous people are hard. And sometimes you do kind of a lot of things right in prep and they work out badly anyway. Roosevelt was a very smart man. And I don't think he was badly prepped for Yalta. But like Yalta worked out really, speaking of the Crimean Peninsula, worked out really badly for the West, particularly for Poland. And it worked out, it was not like it is not remembered as, a triumph of US diplomacy, right? The word Yalta in English means getting punked by Stalin. And
Can I have a detour on the detour?
yeah,
I spent relatively a lot of time in my childhood hanging out that palace where the Yalta conference summit thing happened, because we had property in Crimea near Yalta, and this palace where it happened was like open to the public. And I have so many memories just like hanging. It was like going to a park. It's like that palace is where I go. That room and everything,
This is why you watch Dogshirt TV, because Nastia can have a flight of memory off of my flight of historical memory, and it can be about the palace in Yalta. If you read a history of the Yalta Summit and its aftermath, this was U.S. policy and British policy, by the way, with the best of intentions done by Churchill and Roosevelt. It's really serious people, and getting punked by Stalin anyway, to the detriment of like basically all of Eastern Europe. The phrase "fuck around and find out" applies to serious people as well. But like unserious people doing high stakes international diplomacy on other people with other people's land, like there is a moral imperative to be serious. It doesn't mean you're always going to get the answer right. I believe George W. Bush was an honest and serious and earnest man who blundered his way into Iraq. I don't think it was blood for oil. But you can be, for all the right reasons, make catastrophically bad decisions. And that's true even if you're great, like Churchill and Roosevelt. But like, there is an obligation to be serious about things, and going to a summit, inviting Putin to a summit in the United States to figure out where his headspace is. That's what a dating app is for. You want to text him a few times. Fine. Send him a few nudes, whatever. I don't have a summit with him.
Ben, why did you say that? Jesus.
I think there should be a dating app for leaders of countries who have irrational things for each other.
Oh my God, like Zelensky and Macron, just like late night texting. I can see that. They're already doing it.
No, they're totally doing it.
They're totally doing it.
But there needs to be an app
bro,
for it.
Had a hard day today.
Yeah, it was rough.
I'm with you.
Sometimes when I have a hard day, I just text Nastia of a pic, and she sends me an adorable picture of the baby. It's all. So I just want to say, I don't begrudge them checking out what your headspace is. That's not what a frickin' summit is for. And it is particularly not what a summit is for in a it's not like a sideline meeting at a international meeting, a sideline conference at an international meeting that they're both going to be. This is a summit, and it's there to like check each other out. Do we want to hook up? That's not what this fucking thing is for. And I do think that there's some like there's not enough are you freaking kidding me reaction to this. There's a little bit too much um starting at the place of like, well, what are the implications for the war,
But that's true with everything Trump does,
yes.
the normalization of Trump and the theorization or whatever. Ezra Klein can pronounce the word, I can't, of Trump, like you know, people hating on New York Times because they talk about Trump as if it's normal and so on and
Right.
so
No, no, that's all
forth. Part of
correct.
it.
I I just I just think it is important to start this conversation with a few are you freaking kidding me's? Um
I
Alaska.
really, speaking of Klein, I really hope he doesn't do an episode about any of this because the one time he opened his mouth and uttered the word Ukraine, I was this close to heartbreak.
You mean you mean because because he didn't live up to your expectations?
Well, because he did like one episode about foreign policy and Trump, and he invited this very interesting guest who had very interesting takes, who said that, and they talked about Ukraine for like 5 minutes, and she said that the offer that has been on the table for Ukraine from Russia and from the US or whatever, like basically what Russia is asking for, that it's not that bad of a deal. And she said that with a straight face, and they just continued the conversation. And I was like crying, like inside. Like, no, I have one crush online. I can't lose him. Anyway,
Um, all right. So Kate in the chat raises an important issue, which is the NVIDIA deal. I am working on, we discussed this deal at length on rational security the other day. I believe that episode should be up today, or maybe it was up yesterday. I can't remember. And I also mean to have some conversations on this program about that. I am working on that, and it should happen. So, to all who want an NVIDIA, can you waive national security concerns for 15% show, it's going to happen. I promise. I want to do it with somebody who knows the chip market well and who also can have a serious conversation about whether either of us can think of any other national security policies that are waivable for enough money. I actually have trouble thinking of such a policy, as in you're not allowed to trade with North Korea unless we get 15%. I'm trying to think of any of those. I can't, it's actually very hard to think of them. But
Russia, the
no, no, we
Arctic.
don't have, so wait, we do not have sanctions against Russia that are waivable for enough money. We're waiving certain sanctions. We're considering waiving certain sanctions because we want see previous dating app stuff with Putin, but it's not. But it's not like there are any existing policies that I know of anyway that are like, Nastia, you are not allowed to do this with Russia unless you pay us X amount of money. Um, uh, all
Oh,
right, look.
can I
Oh, go ahead.
can I do a little promo for a podcast that I did? So I did a great podcast for the Lawfare podcast feed, Lawfare Daily, with a person from the Ukrainian parliament. So if any of you guys are still interested in that big anti-corruption scandal that happened, it's a few weeks old. Uh, you should listen to the episode, because I talked to a member of the Ukrainian parliament who is from Zelensky's party, and she abstained from that vote and played a crucial role in making sure that people know about it and that this is a disaster and whatever. She's also the head of the parliament's anti-corruption.
Is it a disaster or a disaster?
It's a complete disaster, Ben. It's very bad. So anyway, yeah, I love the conversation, and it just dropped this morning. So if you're interested.
All right. I am going to listen to it on my drive home. And just a warning to all of you people who don't know this, Virginia is large, and there are long drives that you can do in that are mostly in Virginia. I have one of them today. I'm going to listen to this episode. We are going to be back tomorrow. We're going to end a little bit early this morning because I have to go have breakfast with the estimable Quinta Jurecic and the no less estimable Emily Hogue. And then I'm going to drive home. We're going to be back tomorrow. I don't know who the hosts are going to be. I don't know who the guests are going to be. But whether it is from a hotel room in Virginia Beach or from my upstairs studio or my hammock studio, I will be there, and I'm sure that you will be there too. Take care, Nastya.
Bye.